friends, I'm Akash, and this is your News of the Week for the week of March 13th to March 19th, 2022. I'm Akash Cody, and let's get right into our stories. And we begin with an update on the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, Russia has been battering Western Ukraine recently with many missile strikes, while the east is slowly being occupied by Russian land forces. Now, this is a major situation that has been going on for the past few weeks. In fact, we are currently experiencing week 3 or 4 right now, and the battle is still raging on, harder than ever before. Now, let's take a look at the refugee crisis that has occurred during this war. 3.3 million refugees have escaped this war-torn country of Ukraine to neighboring countries, and in some cases abroad. So this is the mass refugee crisis that has been taking place during this time. Now, as the stronger attacks on Kyiv keep coming and coming, the Russian military has created a series of berms, which are basically earthen ridges that have been built in order to protect tanks or other military equipment from any oncoming defense tanks. So these are the things that Russia has been constructing. And so these berms are meant to prevent any Ukraine defense tanks from reaching their equipment. So at least without some level of hassle caused by, well, the berms. So that's what Russia has been doing in Kyiv, and they've continued battering, and it won't stop for quite a long time. You know, even as the fact that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has still remained open to any, talks between the Ukraine and Russian governments to stop this invasion, Russia just doesn't feel like doing it. And they have tried to do that, but the things that they were going on about, they differed on so strongly that they couldn't come up with a compromise, any ceasefire. So the war continued, and it's still continuing today. Russia has been using hypersonic weapons recently, and hypersonic weapons are the next generation after supersonic. Supersonic weapons exceed the speed of sound, and so hypersonic weapons are many times that. They are ridiculously fast, so fast that they can evade detection by any military alarm systems for missiles. Say, the ones in Ukraine, which allowed Russia to attack an underground military depot this week using a hypersonic missile. So this is what Russia's weapons are being used. They can evade detection because they go insanely fast, many times the speed of sound. Now, let's take a look at Mariupol. And Mariupol is a city in southeastern Ukraine. You can say it's the final stronghold of southeastern Ukraine. Almost everything else on the area that borders the coast of the Sea of Azov has basically been controlled by Russia, and Mariupol is the last stand for Ukraine there. And so the siege of Mariupol has taken place with the valiant forces of Ukraine fighting against Russia on all sides. So Russia has been doing whatever it takes to take control of Mariupol, and this includes bombing one of the largest sites for hiding from the Russian attacks during this time. For civilians, it's the Mariupol Drama Theater that hundreds have gone to, and Russia just straight up bombed the entire thing. And although it appears that no one died, although one person was gravely injured, that information can change. And it can change rapidly. In the coming days, we're going to see more and more people hopefully escape. 130 survivors so far. But then again, this is massive. and this siege has only intensified as a result. Now, let's take a look at the west of Ukraine. As I mentioned earlier, it's been battered heavily, and that's why many government agencies and organizations have sort of shifted from Kyiv to a temporary western capital, you may say. It's called Lviv, and it is a very much western Ukraine city. It's out in the west, and because these agencies and organizations are basing their current bases there and not in Kyiv, that's why Russia has an incentive to bomb Lviv too. So they did, and they ended up bombing a repair station for airplanes coming into Lviv airport, and as well as this, they also hit a military training base a few days prior as well. So Russia has been striking Lviv as well, and things are not so good there. But for the most part, land forces have nowhere near reached that area, so it seems that they will be safe for quite some time. But the East is not that lucky. Now, let's take a look at the international updates regarding this war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the U.S. Congress virtually. And so in it, he said that the U.S. should be implementing a humanitarian no-fly zone over Ukraine, and also pleading directly to President Biden himself in order to provide the necessary tools and equipment to fight off the Russian offensive. Now, Volodymyr Zelensky has also gave addresses to the parliaments and congresses of Canada, the UK, and Germany. And as it turns out, he's going to be speaking to the National Diet of Japan next week. Now, as it turns out, President Biden hopped on a call with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping on March 18th. And this comes at a very important time, because China and Russia have always been the best of friends, but in the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly votes regarding the condemnation of Russia and their attack, China abstained. They didn't necessarily say no or yes, they just didn't vote at all. So it appears, at least to the rest of the world, that China might be on the fence whether to support Russia or not. So President Biden basically said, if China decides to support Russia militarily, and they've already supported Russia via financial aid to help fight off the sanctions that they faced in the initial stages of the war. But should China support Russia militarily, providing weapons and whatnot, then the United States and other Western allies will have to get China and show them the serious repercussions that they will then face. So serious repercussions will follow if China supports Russia militarily. This is what President Biden said. And so, should China go ahead and support Russia, then this is what's going to happen. And now it's up to China to determine which side of the fence it will stay, support Russia or not. So that's what's been going on with the war in Ukraine and the Russian invasion of this country. So let's take a look at our next story of the week, which is the 7.4 magnitude earthquake in Japan on March 16th that has left 4 dead and 225 injured. 7.4 magnitude is the largest and worst earthquake that we've seen this year in Japan. And, well, Japan's no stranger to earthquakes. We've seen massive ones in the years prior, especially the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, where we saw the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant undergo a meltdown in what was the second worst nuclear power plant disaster in world history, just second to Chernobyl in the Soviet Union. Now we're seeing this earthquake's epicenter occur literally off the coast of Fukushima where the disaster happened. However, luckily, it was determined that no damages or leaks happened at any of Japan's major nuclear power plants. So that part is safe. But, 7.4 magnitude is bound to cause big damage. Well, we're seeing tsunamis hit the eastern coast of Miyagi Prefecture, 8 inches in height, and as well as this, there were power outages that left over 2.2 million people without electricity at all. It's insane. There were several buildings that collapsed, including a shrine, and as well as this, there was actually a train serving Japan Railways East, and this train had derailed off the railway track, and luckily no one got injured and everyone is safe. But the fact that this happened is quite severe. And, this situation is massive. Evacuation centers open throughout the coast, and the Japanese government is currently providing relief, helping civilians and repairing the damage caused. And, I and everyone, prays for those affected. Our thoughts and prayers are with you all. So that's what's happened with the Japanese earthquake of 2022, 7.4 magnitude on March 16th. So let's take a look at our final story of the week, and that is an update on coronavirus. And we've got a big one for you today because cases have apparently begun to rise back up. Surprisingly, after weeks upon weeks of cases going down after the Omicron spike, cases are rising back up yet again. 2 million cases per day worldwide, 36,000 of which are from the United States. But the deaths tell a different story. 5,000 deaths per day, which is actually even less than the 7,000 that we were seeing beforehand, 1,000 of which are from the United States. So, what is causing these cases to go up and the deaths just not the same, just go down? What's causing this uptick? And well, that is in East Asia. This is where it lies, because China and South Korea have been facing massive upticks of cases of coronavirus recently, and this is huge. While over in China we had 3,000 cases per day, which is enough for cities like Shenzhen, a city of 17.5 million people, to go under lockdown because of China's very aggressive zero COVID policy. That's still one of the highest we've seen since the beginning of the entire thing. And meanwhile, South Korea has already been, very well known for handling COVID-19 super well. They've been going at it really good since the beginning of this pandemic. But now, we are seeing levels that have never been seen before in South Korean history of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are seeing 400,000 cases per day in South Korea. So what is South Korea doing in order to stop this from increasing further? Well, as it turned out, this whole uptick in cases for South Korea actually started back in the 3rd or 4th week of January. And in January, these is when the cases started to go up quite slowly, but very surely for South Korea. Now, they're at the highest yet. So what did South Korea say? Well, they pretty much predicted that the cases would pretty much plateau at 400,000 to 500,000 around now in the coming weeks. And so, as a result of this, Korea basically made no changes to the schedule to lift restrictions of COVID-19 very soon, coming in the next few weeks. So this is the plan for South Korea. But at the same time, because South Korea has always been going at the aggressive COVID-19 strategy, this means that now, if South Korea just can't stop this ultimate rise, then we might see that South Korea will just become another one of the countries which is succumb to COVID-19. And no one wants countries to succumb to COVID-19 like that. And we're just hoping for the best that either South Korea's predictions are right, or if they're wrong, then that they get slowed down really fast. I'm hoping for the best and that South Korea can flatten this rapidly growing curve. And, you know, we're just all hoping for the best for South Korea and China and the countries in East Asia. So that's what's been going on with East Asia and the COVID-19 outbreak. So let's take a look at vaccines. Because as it turns out, 3 doses of COVID-19 might not be enough. Yep. You heard it, that's right. It turns out that Pfizer and Moderna have both submitted applications to the Food and Drug Administration of the United States of America in order to get approval for the 4th dose of COVID-19 vaccine. That's right, 4th dose. We've already seen 3 doses now. This is the 2nd booster dose. And if it's authorized, then you all here in America will hopefully be seeing another dose of COVID-19 coming your way very soon. So this, you know, we're seeing a lot of these, and a lot of people are getting a bit tired of this. You know, we've seen 4 already. When is this whole thing gonna end? And that's why there are several companies that are currently working on better vaccines that last longer and have a higher efficacy. So that way, what we're really looking for is one vaccine to end them all. I'm joking, of course, but you get the point. We're looking for a really good vaccine that can last a very long time. And that is what several companies are currently working on to do. And hopefully, if this works, then we're going to be seeing a massive change in the way these vaccines work, from having booster dose after booster dose like what we may as well be seeing now, to hopefully a world where there won't be as many of these doses, and that would be because these cases are going down and the vaccine efficacy is going up, and things will last for a long time. So this is the hope for COVID-19 vaccines, and I'm truly hoping that that will be the case, and that COVID-19 vaccines will be a lot better. So that's what's going on with COVID-19, and that is all of your news of the week for the week of March 13th to March 19th, 2022. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another News of the Week. Goodbye.